This is Miley, and she's a 10-week-old Cobberdog. On arrival, Miley was growling at us just as we'd pass her crate, and so we're starting with the crate door closed, just tossing treats. A little further along, and I'm going to start handing her treats. And I'm doing this both for her safety and my safety. I want to take it nice and slow, not push her too far, give her plenty of autonomy, but also I don't want to rush things and get my hands bit. Next, I start working on leashing her up. I present the leash clasp, and then I follow with food. One thing about really stressed out dogs is that you don't have that long of a training session before the stress accumulates and they kind of check out of the session. And so my goal is to work this as long as I can, but when she walks away, I'm going to respect that and provide her autonomy at least as much as I possibly can. This process took me approximately 3.5 days to complete, where I was able to leash her up and move her freely throughout the facility. Christine had a little bit more success with that, and so while day 1 we didn't get her out for play, day 2 we did, and we're starting to give her some exposure to Ink. Ink was specifically selected for this task because he's got really good focus on his handler, and so he's not going to just barrage Miley with a bunch of play moves and tackle her. And you can see that she's keeping her distance. She is, sticking around because there's food around, but she's definitely not making an approach right now. We can see that her body is pretty kind of hunched over. Her tail is really low. We're not seeing much bounce. Again, she's not approaching. There's a stressed scratch indicating that she's not fully comfortable. But the fact that she's not leaving is a good sign. So she'll approach for the treat, and then typically she retreats after she has retrieved it. And again, we want to give her that space to know that she can leave an interaction when she wants to. Here's a little further along in that session, and we've got them working a little bit side by side. Ink is still on leash, but Miley is off leash, again giving her that autonomy, and she can walk out of the session as she pleases. It's really important for fearful dogs to have choice in an interaction because choice helps them feel safe. This is the next day, and we've got Ink off leash this time. Miley is also off leash. The reason that we have Ink off leash is that we know that he's pretty reliable, but we also want him to start moving like a normal dog would move and allow Miley to get exposure to that. We see that her tail carriage is a little bit higher, but we're also seeing those stress scratches continue. So we know that she's in conflict. Later that afternoon, in another session, we had Ink playing, and we have Miley again off leash. And you can see that when he did that kill shake to the toy, it was enough to spook her and for her to retreat. What we're looking for is her ability to bounce back. And so we're back at it again. She has come back around. Again, playing with that toy, encouraging her forward, but she again, like there, she retreated. She's got the ability to make those choices. One difference though is that we're not seeing that tail is tucked. The other thing that we're doing is that we're sitting on the ground, and that's to make sure that Miley has a secure base so that if she needs support, she can come to us. So that was really great. She bounced away, but she didn't leave to the full perimeter, which is a really good sign. Seeing more conflict, what I would describe conflict as is that she is no longer in outright fear. She is definitely interested. She just isn't ready to make the leap yet. So we see that little bounciness. Those are signs of joy. She's still keeping her distance, but we're moving in the right direction. And there she's investigating a toy, which is also a really good sign. And we're going to move Ink closer with a treat toss. She bounces, but she doesn't leave. That's really good. So there was a little bit of fear, but again, she stuck it out. Here's a couple of subtle signals. She is sticking with him and sniffing him for a lot longer duration now. So we're seeing a little bit more comfort. She gets some relief there. But again, she's not fully leaving. Getting some treats, sniffing, and then here, this head turn. This is a really great sign. She turned her head, and then she turned her full body away from him. Historically, that has not happened so far. She hasn't felt safe enough to turn her back on him. So that we're seeing this now is great. And do you see that little bounce that she's kind of possessing when she's moving about? That's also a sign of a little bit of joy coming into this. Really promising. While there's not a ton going on in this next little clip, I just want you to look at her body language as a whole. Again, that tail carriage is a lot higher, and she's just more loose with her body. We're not seeing that slinking around like we were before. She's moving like a normal puppy at this point. And then bounces back to Christine for a little bit of support. Here's the tail end of that session. We're trying to get her to engage with a toy, but it proves to be too much for her. So we just back it up a little bit, starting up on the next Monday. Watch the next clip for more details.